Hey, Doug, how was the bus ride today? Because you were late.
We just ended up waiting a lot at like these stops. I guess like the buses have a set schedule, so they don't want to be ahead of it or behind it.
Oh.
So like I guess if they were ahead of it, I guess there's less traffic at like 1 to 2 rather than like when I came like at 3 to 4. So it goes faster because there's less traffic, but then it stops at the stop for a long time because it's supposed to be there because like, you know, people who do go to that bus on a schedule have to catch up to it.
I see. Well, thanks for coming anyway. You know, it's a special day, isn't it? It's an anniversary day, isn't it?
What is with the Korean
32nd
culture
anniversary of LA
of
Riots?
like making dates like Saigu or like Yu-Gi-Oh or like, you know.
Well, we have 9/11.
I guess it's true.
9/11.
That's true.
Initially, didn't they call it 911 initially, and then they changed it
No,
to
it was
9/11?
always
9/11.
Was it always?
Actually, in 2001, I heard Larry Elder say, you know, on a 911, and then he changed himself. He's like, actually, 9/11's. You know, he changed himself.
Okay.
Yeah, just because like 911 in American
I know,
context too
yeah,
is like
exactly.
911, so it's too confusing.
I mean, that's how I remember it because I was glued to the TV when that happened, and I think initially
I mean,
they
I
didn't
never
use that
heard
word
anyone
9/11.
use 911.
Oh, really? You did
Like,
initially?
and I'm in New York.
I mean,
so.
it was switched. Oh, you were okay. So probably, I think some people they were not used to it calling it 9/11. I think at that.
I mean,
time.
that's because that's the Korean kind of way.
It is.
You know, with the Yu-Gi-Oh, Saigu,
something like that. Yeah.
Chiri chiri. Anyway,
True. You're right.
3일.
today, you know, the 3/1 independence movement. Anyway, today is the 32nd anniversary of the LA Riots, which occurred on April 29th, 1992.
Yes.
A few years ago, I heard it. Some people start calling it the uprising. What do you think of that, Doug? Was it an uprising or a riot?
No, it was a riot.
It was a
It was
chaotic
100% riot.
Why were there people trying to say, "Hey, the uprising"? Like, what is that about?
They
Why?
were trying to connect it to the George Floyd protests of 2020. And just kind of like general how, you know, political movements in America are like tinged with rhetoric, whether it's riots or uprisings or whatever. It's just kind of like a propaganda angle to try to like make it seem like, oh, the LA riots were also this progressive movement that was similar to the George Floyd protests when they were nothing like that.
A little bit of political correctness. That's how I took it.
Overcorrectness, political
Yeah.
I call it political overcorrectness.
Because I'm not sure whether that happened before George Floyd or after.
Or maybe I should call
before?
it political incorrectness.
Correct.
Because
Political
it's
incorrectness,
an
you're right.
incorrect.
Exactly. It was
Bill
wrong. It
Maher.
was a riot.
Is that Bill Maher's show?
Politically Incorrect was one of my favorite show back in the day,
yeah,
early 2000s, late
Never mind.
90s.
I don't want to take that then. That's already been
It
used.
used to be
politically
You're not original. That came out over 20 years ago.
politically
it did,
discorrect.
Discorrect? Is there such a word? I don't know.
Miscorrect.
Politically,
That's a misinformation, probably.
Yeah.
Political misinformation to call it an uprising.
Yes.
Because it was a riot and the media had a lot to do with it. I just watched Rooftop Korea
Because like
again.
when we
produced by
saw
Radio
the
Korea.
Watts riots in 1965, some could actually consider that an uprising because they actually had political goals and they changed some of the political stuff that was going on in LA during that time. But in 1992, they had no political concessions. There was planned. It was a planned. You know, like how firefighters sometimes there's like an area that they purposely set on fire just to extinguish it later on, so that like you don't have all this kindle. Kind of like if you don't do that, then if a fire breaks out, then it just like destroys everything, right? This was a very similar situation where the political actors in power knew of 1965 and were like, oh, we want to avoid something like that. So what we got to do is set up the little fires around KTOWN so that we don't get demolished.
it seems like Asian Americans are like America's punching bag or the sacrificial lamb for the crimes of America, or cannon fodder. Like, you know, in New York, what is it? The two Asian brothers, the Ong brothers.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They were being attacked or something by like 4 or 5 other dudes.
5 dudes, yeah.
And then one of them
5
comes out with
dudes.
like a sword or something, right? And I guess,
It's called Kishita or something? Yeah. But
Katana?
Katana.
but anyway, I guess, you know, but anyway, like they were the guy got in trouble, and then none of those other guys, nothing happened to them.
Yeah, I
So
call
how
it
is
the
that-
DEI Gestapo 5.
The what?
The DEI Gestapo 5.
Is it on your Twitter?
Yeah, it's on my pinned tweet.
But how come they're the perpetrators and they're ganging up on this one dude, and then there's no charge on them, but the one who brings that sword, he got charged with what, second-degree murder?
Attempted murder.
Yeah, attempted murder.
Yeah,
So,
like they weren't even the aggressors. They were outnumbered, and they probably don't have any past record or anything, but they get charged with murder, and nothing happens to them. What the fuck is that? That's
it's
fucking
ridiculous.
crazy.
It really is ridiculous.
Yep,
I mean-
it's just, I've been sounding the alarm bells on this for 4 years now, and
I'm wondering there's protest against the DA or something in New
Well,
York.
the thing is, like, this was under the radar for 4 years. This happened in 2020.
in 2020, exactly.
When the
Yeah,
pandemic
yeah,
and anti-Asian hate was like at its apex. And these people, these 5 people, they're all well connected. They went to Friends Seminary, they went to NYU. They're all like, upper middle class people. They're not like, random homeless people or random thugs on the street like looking for trouble.
Yeah.
These are fucking racist pieces of shit that got away with peeing on a place, calling people racial slurs, attacking people, and then now they are not charged, and the people that defended John Ong and the Ong brothers, they're going to jail. Like, they took a plea deal. He took a plea deal because he didn't want to have his mom, like, what if he did get charged and was guilty for X amount of years?
Yeah.
Then now his mom's out of a son, and like, she's an elderly lady. She has to fend for herself. And now this fucking piece of shit, Jeremiah Wilkins or whatever, they're trying to sue.
He's a dude, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
now they're trying to sue and civil case for
They
$10
are.
million.
They are.
This
yeah.
guy here.
Yeah.
Can you share all with us
Jeremiah
reacting?
Wilkins, Friends Seminary and Wake Forest alumni.
Yeah. So this is him. This is the guy, huh?
Yeah.
Jeremiah Wilkins, Friends Seminary. What is Friends Wake Forest? That's like a good school, right?
I think
That's
it's
like
it's
a
pretty
college.
good.
So
yeah,
Friends
pretty good
Seminary
college.
is a private high school
Uh-huh.
in New York City that costs around $60,000 to $70,000 a year for
Okay.
tuition. So this is not like a out on his luck black guy who's homeless and whatever. This is a fucking rich ass black kid who used the cover of George Floyd and Black Lives Matter to basically strong arm the Ong brothers. This whole group, they strong arm I've been hearing from people on the ground in New York City, my contacts. They told me that they basically intimidated them in the courtroom and others.
Even in the courtroom. Huh?
Yeah. And there was there's now like some journalists who are like, this mother obstructed justice or obstructed the truth from coming out.
Yeah.
And, they got kind of like bad legal representation too, because if you plead, there's no way you can appeal. So they got...
This is Alvin Bragg, right? The infamous
DA.
DA who
Yes.
charged Trump too, right? He's a dude.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but they got a bad lawyer because like apparently at the time, this is like the apex of Black Lives Matter, right? Because that
During
happened in June.
2020,
This is like
yeah.
later, a couple months later.
A couple months later.
And so in that environment, they're looking for lawyers, and they get turned down by everyone pretty much, except for these shitty ass fucking lawyers who like didn't know what they were doing and just caved to the pressure because that was Black Lives Matter at the time. And so now it's coming out 4 years later, the sentencing and the plea deal and everything, when it's too late to do anything about it.
So are they saying that our retaliation against whatever race, when Asians are being attacked, that should be measured? Is that the message that they're trying to give us?
They're basically saying
that
if
we
you
can't
attack,
be too angry.
If you attack Asians, you can just get away with it. If they attack you back, you can sue them and ruin their lives. Basically, it is the same exact Nazi regime in the 1930s before World War II of Jewish people. If what happened in 1938 in Kristallnacht, all these Jewish businesses were destroyed, Jewish people were beat up. Any Jewish person who was like defending themselves was imprisoned or sent to a concentration camp, right?
Yeah.
So it's the same fucking thing that they're doing to Asian people because they know that Asian people do not have any political power in this country. They don't have any legal representation in this country. They don't have any political unity in this country. So they know that they could pick on someone and then take them apart and nothing will happen to them because they have no ability to have any sort of reprisals.
Was John Ong the one who was holding that sword? Was it John Ong? Not Max Ong, right? It was John. Right?
I forget who
and
it was. But
what about the brass knuckles? They had these knuckles on too? I didn't see that on the video.
I have no idea about that.
Okay, according to the victim, he had permanent damage to his nerves and tendons. That's one of the reasons why they...
That's why you fuck around, you
That's
find out.
true, you're right, exactly. But there was nobody... I mean...
But, you know, some people might say, like, oh, well, this is maybe revenge. Or, like, you know, well, what about Latasha Harlins? You know, they always bring up Latasha Harlins, right?
They even made a park after
they
her
named
name.
something. And
yeah, it's funny that they only have one example in 32 years.
Yeah, but Asians have,
we have
dozens or maybe hundreds of examples.
Fucking week.
Yeah.
Of this shit.
And I think even the anti-Asian hate crime happened between... You two did the documentary regarding the rooftop Koreans.
Yeah,
and
2 years ago.
I watched it. From between 1991 to 1993, there were 43 Korean Americans killed, right?
Yep.
Killed.
Yep.
Yeah, so when people say LA riots, we only had like one friendly fire. Who died? What's his name? Mr. Lee?
Eddie Lee, right?
Eddie Lee, right?
Yeah.
It's not true. I think we have to put those numbers in there too as well because I think it's a cumulative effect.
Well, yeah, I mean, like as you're a
44,
journalist,
43.
so you would agree, but you know, like apparently the liberal establishment does not agree with us, and they want to genocide Asian Americans. They want to use their media to basically make us have no voice at all, so that we either get beat down by white people, beat down by black people, and nothing happens to anyone. Mm-hmm. That's why I call it the DEI Gestapo 5. You know, it's kind of like...
How do you feel about them? Like, use some, like...
I'd kick their ass today. I'd fucking kick their ass today. Fucking pieces of shit.
Why don't you show the documentary, the title?
All right.
I think our viewers should know about this video.
So, yeah, back in... let me give some backstory to this. So, let's do the PPT camel view thing. So 2 years ago, it was about to be the 30th anniversary of the LA riots, and I thought, oh my God, we're Radio Korea. We have to do something
because Radio Korea was right in the middle of the riots, right?
This was before Twitter, the internet, everything. It was everything was done through the radio, and I'm like, okay, we got to make a documentary or something, but I didn't know how. And then Doug was one of the few people on Twitter who was, you know, outspoken about the reality of the riots and all this. So I just kind of reached out to Doug, like, hey man, I know it's short notice. We had like 6 weeks or something, 2 months at the most. Can we make something? And then with Doug and with the other staff at the time, you know, a lot of work, we were able to get it done. So Radio Korea did come out with this. It was directed by Doug.
You came out. This is your first directorial debut, or
Yes,
it was it? Oh, okay.
It's my first directorial.
You didn't even direct just Doug, huh?
No, I didn't. I left that to another friend of mine too.
So this is the...
And you produced it, Michael J. Kim.
I'm the executive producer.
Okay.
Radio Korea, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was great. It was very well made, and I watched it, you know, before our show.
It's 33 minutes long. Did you finish it?
I watched from the Tusunja and then all the way to the end,
Did
and
you
then I
watch
went
it
back from the beginning.
When it
to
came
the
out, or
beginning.
did you just watch it recently?
Oh no, I watched it like probably this is my fourth
Oh,
time
okay,
or fifth
okay,
time.
okay,
I already
yeah,
watched
yeah,
it, but you know sometimes you have to remind yourself,
Sure,
but
sure,
you
sure,
forget
sure.
it. You know, I forgot some part while watching it. You know, I forgot his name for a while. Sonny Kang. I think he was one of the heroes there.
Yeah.
Then we should consider him as a hero, but I think he had his grievances about Korean American community, kind of bashing him like he was some kind of gangpe or one of the
Well, he said
gangsters.
they didn't want to thank the gangpes that protected
Yeah.
Koreatown. Yeah.
Was he also one of the gangpe? Or
Well,
I don't know.
I mean, that's what he was saying. He's like saying they
Yeah,
don't want to
but-
say that. You know, they don't want to admit that it was a bunch of gangpes.
because I'm not 100% sure whether he was one of the gang members or not. That I don't know, but he
was part of a gang before, but he cleaned himself up, went to college, and then he went back to LA when everything was good. So he was going to college, I think, in San Diego. And then when he heard about it on the 29th.
Let's show Sonny. This is Sonny, by the way.
I think we should consider him a hero, and
I
I
do
think
too.
we have to always be thankful to rooftop
too.
Koreans, because
I do
without
too.
them, it would have been demolished.
I always say rooftop Koreanism is Juche Americanism.
Juche, huh?
So that's a leap for me a little bit. But
Well,
I
just
think,
because Juche is what is
Okay,
the
so
ideology
you're
of
saying
Juche?
that,
Juche is
yeah,
self-reliance.
Self-reliance.
self-reliance. You're right.
When
you're right.
when nobody was coming to protect K-Town, when the National Guard was all the way wherever and the LAPD was all the way wherever, they had to rely on themselves. So it's Juche Americanism.
Do we need to bring back Juche to the Koreatown community?
Yes.
Okay.
Coming from a communist,
Yes.
of course. I think conservatives respect a heck of a lot of rooftop Koreans. I think Fox News did a special on rooftop Koreans, and there's memes. Because I go to these conservative, Telegram, and there's memes about.
That's all garbage to me. You know why? Because the LAPD didn't help.
No,
K-Town.
because I'm talking about conservative.
No, I know, but the conservatives usually are on the police side.
Yeah.
And the police didn't do for shit for us either.
Yeah, so what do you think about the Koreans who still really love the police despite the police not helping during the riots? Many Korean Americans are very pro-police. What do you think about that?
I mean, it's a complicated situation. I mean, obviously, this was an event that happened 32 years ago.
They arrested them, right?
Yeah.
Rooftop Koreans were arrested.
They were the only
by LAPD.
All the black, Hispanic people looting and rioting, none of them
That's
were arrested.
also, I think, discriminatory. Because they were the only ones who
Yeah.
were protecting
Or
in
Korean
K-Town,
American
if you were
community.
looting and rioting, you did not get arrested.
Or do you think the police were too afraid of the rioters and they said, oh, well, Koreans will just do what we say, so let's just arrest them?
Do you think that was
No.
in play?
Then why do you think they wouldn't?
Because it was a planned effort by the LAPD, by the Crips and Bloods,
You mean
by
the gangs?
the gang members, by black city officials like Karen Bass and Mark Ridley Thomas.
She wasn't a city official back then. She was
She
a
was a
nonprofit
organizer.
organizer, and she
Like
said
Obama
that-
was.
Yeah,
Yeah, and she was.
and look what she's doing to the city right now. It's a fucking complete shit show.
I mean,
She just got robbed, and then
Yeah,
of
she got
course,
robbed twice,
Of course,
right? This
of
is
course
her
they
second
prosecute
time.
that immediately,
Yeah.
right? George Gascon is all over that.
This is her
But,
second time, right?
you know, kill a Korean person in his car, and nothing fucking happens, right? But you rob Karen Bass's house, you are on notice, and you are immediately arrested the day after.
Does Karen Bass have a Korean connection or anything?
I think her son-in-law. I think daughter-in-law. I think son-in-law is Korean. Yeah,
I don't give a fuck.
yeah, but
So
I
what do you think of that? Maybe she will care about Koreans now that she has Korean in her family.
No, she's
Or maybe
just
her
like,
grandchild
Just like
is-
every fucking politician, liberal politician, they're all fucking snakes. They're all fucking garbage, and they all, they don't represent anyone.
Well, David Kim and John Yee and these guys are running for office.
You know why? You know why? Because back when the LA riots happened, she said something like, "Oh,
that's what I was
It's
about to
a
say.
miracle.
That's what I was
Yeah,
about
yeah,
to say.
And at the time, the black community agreed with her, right? But then a couple of years later, they noticed, oh, there are no grocery stores, there are no liquor stores.
You wouldn't have even-
I have to
yeah.
walk 2, 3, 4, 5 fucking miles to get basic groceries now. We live in a food desert. Nobody wants to open fucking grocery stores here. We're fucked. They don't talk, did Karen Bass ever talk about that? No, that's why I don't fucking believe that Karen Bass is,
Right.
he's gonna do something because he has a Korean. Yeah, fuck that. Get that fucking shit out of here. Get that representation politics out of my fucking face.
Yeah, so I was the one
Tell
who...
us how you really feel. Okay.
I was the one who exposed her. People didn't know that she said that it was a miracle. I broke that story.
Yeah.
People didn't know it because I
knew
pulled
it.
it out.
I knew.
You knew it because of my report.
No.
That's what. When did you know that?
I
When
put
did
it in
you?
the fucking documentary.
That's
Are you
what I'm
kidding
saying.
me?
My report came out prior to that, man.
I didn't see your
Yeah,
fucking
but anyway,
report.
it was translated in English too. But anyway, I think what she said was a shame. That's why Korean community backed Rick Caruso, but it didn't happen, right? Korean American community did back Rick Caruso, but he
Not
spent
really
100
even.
million plus.
Like maybe the older community, but the fucking younger, retarded, Gen Z kids were like, oh yeah, Karen Bass, oh, Black Lives Matter.
Are they actually voting?
I don't fucking know. But if they did, or they said anything, even the millennial, even my generation, maybe your generation, Koreans and older, but even millennials and younger,
they don't care about.
they still believe the liberal story about the LA riots for the most part.
Millennials are not young anymore. Millennials are like
Right.
44 and
That's what I'm saying. That's how stupid our community is. That's
Just
how
brainwashed by the mainstream
Yeah.
media. So do they think that Latasha Harlins is supposed to be considered like a hero in the black community or stuff like that? The millennials I'm talking about, Korean Americans. Do they?
I don't
think
know
that
what
there
they
was-
think about
there was
Latasha Harlins,
wrong
but they just
on-
think that the rooftop Koreans were bad.
Yeah, let me.
Well, they think that way.
Yeah.
They're crazy, man.
Yeah.
You got to do something about your
I'm trying.
fellow
I'm making a
millennials, man.
documentary. I gotta do something. What else? What more can I do?
Yeah, Koreans do.
You're
What
like-
more
you're
can I
like,
do?
Yeah, you should be the Korean American Joker. You know.
She said that it was the best thing that happened in the black community for the LA riot to happen. She
Yeah.
said that. She said that.
And it
then-
wasn't. She
course not.
wasn't talking. She just wanted to make a career for herself. So now and then 30 years later, she's LA mayor. So, you know,
Have you heard of Paula Yu?
Rising.
I just see this was
Rising
uploaded
from
a
the
few hours ago. It
ashes.
says a new YA book on the 1992 LA uprising. See, they're calling it Uprising, from Paula Yu, that tells the stories of Rodney King, Latasha Harlins, and Edward J. Song Lee. What about the LAPD? Why don't they? Anyway,
I mean, they should be criticized too. They didn't
she's
do
like
anything.
the queen of the boba liberals.
oh, you know who
You
this
know her?
is? I don't know who
Yes.
this is.
I've seen her.
Yu
around.
Bora,
Oh, not Paula Yu, the other one, the one that
Nancy
Yu.
Wang Yuan.
Yeah.
Oh, and then here's another Latasha Harlins. This was posted
23.
5 days ago. She was born in. She's about your age.
She's born
She-
when?
January 76.
You know,
January 1st.
on our documentary, the Radio Korea documentary, Rooftop Koreans. In that video,
It's called Koreans on the Roof, by the
Koreans
way.
on the Roof. Yeah, in the documentary, many Koreans said that killing Latasha was not good. You know,
Yeah, of course not.
It was not a good thing. You know, and
No one said it was a good thing.
No one says it was a good thing, but the only thing that I heard was like, well, she was getting beat up, or it was maybe it went a little over, but nobody praised it. It was like a tragic thing or something.
And she had $2 in her fist, right? She did have $2, and
mean, that's a
the
story.
orange juice cost $1.75
something
or
like that,
something
yeah.
like that. And I'm wondering, is it like that? I mean, do they usually put it in their bag and bring it up there? I don't know. I mean,
I don't want to discuss.
if she wants to steal it, she could have
the-
just. I'm not trying to be an
Yeah.
apologist. I'm just wondering, because
So, there are some people who think that she was going to steal it, and then once she got caught she just took out the money and then put it down,
That
right?
could be.
But
because it's out of the norm. It's not common sense
who
to put
knows?
it in
I
your
mean,
own
like
bag, right?
it's a very grainy tape. It's like 1990s.
Yeah, but that was in the documentary. Also, one of the guys that we interviewed was,
Sonny?
I guess he said, no, not him. One of the older guys. He said he owned a store, and he said something like how if somebody got caught stealing, rather than being apologetic, they would just get angry or something.
Yeah.
I think.
And again,
I think Howard Park said that. I think Howard.
no,
Park
it wasn't
was
Howard Park. It was. I know who Howard Park. It wasn't him. It was even older than him.
Was he?
But yeah.
And only that, let's say you put in your bag and then somebody grabs your bag saying to pay. Is your next instinct to punch that person in the face twice?
Yeah, that's ridiculous too. Yeah.
But anyway, yeah.
there are people who saying like, oh, she was justified because, grabbing her bag is assault. It's like, what are you fucking talking about? Like, in what normal society, if somebody grabs her bag, are you allowed to just punch them in the fucking face, like with haymakers? And then Latasha Harlins, she's portrayed as this like very sweet, innocent girl.
She's not.
She's 50 pounds, like a good 50 pounds heavier than Sunja-do in that video. Like, she's like hulking over her.
So
Like,
that's-
and the funny thing is, they always note how the media is always so racist about black people. The media is always so like, it says they were no angel, whatever. All of a sudden, when, there's this tragic accident with the Korean lady, now she's this, the media is like, oh, she was an angel. She was so innocent. This was, you have the DA who was like, this is a travesty of justice when the sentencing came down. The same DA who organized the Rodney King case to be in Simi Valley so the cops could get off.
right?
Same one is saying this is a travesty. This was an innocent black girl. This blah blah blah, like talking about racism in one case, and then just like letting these police officers go in another. So it's like it's like obvious liberal double dealing
And
that's going on.
Yeah, and if you look at Tusunja's story, she even closed her business for like a couple of weeks because the environment was so bad.
Yeah, and it
There's
got
a lot of
destroyed
gangs.
afterwards.
I mean, I'm talking about prior to. Even the
So
Latasha
she
Carlin's
was,
incident.
you
even
know,
prior to that, she was feeling threatened around there.
Empire Liquor had been open for 1 or 2 years, 1 to 2 years,
They had a couple of liquor stores,
and
that's
they
what I
were
understand.
shoplifted at least, once a week. They had burglaries, at least like 20 or so break-ins. So this was not like this
not
nice
like this nice
neighborhood
area, no.
that black customers were. And the notion that she was being racist was like ridiculous because she's in the middle of South Central, so most of her customers are just gonna be black.
Yeah.
It's not like, it's just like when she's seen this over and over and over again, she's gonna respond in a certain way.
Yeah.
And like they said in the trial with the hair trigger and everything, it was like,
The timing was really bad, and
it was really good for white people.
Yeah, probably.
Because Rodney King was just 2 weeks prior to that. So they had something to throw everyone's attention onto.
I think we have a new conspiracy idea
What is it?
that the LA riots was
You mean fabricated?
no,
Not
that
fabricated, but
that
planned.
it was decided that the Koreans would be the one to take the blame and the brunt of the anger and the chaos. They're the ones to be harmed.
I don't think that's even a conspiracy. Isn't that kind of like proven to be almost a fact within the Korean
So it's
American
a
community?
conspiracy fact.
It is a conspiracy
no,
fact.
I actually think most people still are not aware of the duplicitous nature. Like, yeah, they're aware that Daryl Gates and the National Guard didn't help them or protect them, but I don't think they know about these certain like the meeting in Compton in April 28th between
you mean between
Mark Ridley Thomas,
Karen Bass, and those meetings?
I don't know if Karen Bass was there.
Karen Bass was, I think, also in the
heard
meeting.
Mark Ridley Thomas was there, but nobody knows about this meeting. This was a meeting between, and the same day on April 28th, where the Crips and Bloods just declare a truce for the first time in their history, right before the LA riots. And the fact of the matter that in South Central, on April 29th, the first day of the riots, there were signs that said black owned outside, as if people knew what was going to happen.
It's been said for years. I've been hearing for years now, and it kind of annoys me because we only look at it one way. But we've been hearing a lot about how Asian Americans or Korean Americans are very anti-black. But we never hear about, are black people anti-Asian? Like, what do you think about that?
I mean, it's just another way of liberal establishment people maintaining their power. They know that through the civil rights movement, they know that through decades of kind of liberal programming, that they essentially have the black vote over the Republican Party since the 1960s.
90% plus.
And so they have to keep that vote, right? Or they want to maintain that vote. So any sort of idea that black people are racist against Asians, they automatically throw out because it's against their interests. They don't want to make black people angry because they're like, oh, these Democrats are, calling out black people. That's white supremacy.
And that's one of the main reasons why a lot of mainstream media like LA Times and New York Times, they decided after a certain point when anti-Asian hate crime was rising that they decided not to mention the ethnic group of the perpetrators.
Yeah. So even remember the five, the DEI Gestapo 5 that I mentioned?
The 5 thugs.
All of the...
Yeah, it wasn't mentioned,
all
right?
All of the Stop Asian Hate, AAPI hate, all of those top liberal Stop Asian Hate accounts, they are saying nothing about it. They have not said anything about it. So those are all controlled opposition fronts for the liberal Democratic Party.
Well, the thing about Asians being anti-black or Koreans being anti-black, they also say we're white adjacent, right?
Yeah.
So what's your take on that? Are we
white
kind of saying that we're most like the white people?
That's a white created concept, white adjacency. It's to distract from their veiled policy.
Is that also liberal?
Now,
policy.
it seems funny to me because you talk about these Asian groups, these leaders or whatever.
Yeah.
They are the most white adjacent themselves, aren't they?
Yes.
And they don't say anything.
They're literally fucking white men. and calling us white adjacent.
Here we go with WMAF. And
The
then
mind virus.
right. And then they label, so these are the most white adjacent Asian leaders.
They're white adjacenting into their vaginas.
Okay.
That's how much white adjacent they are.
All right. So, okay, fine. But you see, you totally threw me off. Okay, so
Yeah, man. That's why sometimes I think we gotta cut him off in the middle because
Okay.
I also lose my chain of thought too.
what? See, I mean, when you start saying vagina, like, okay, white adjacent.
kind of funny.
They go to Ivy League schools. They hang out with white people.
Yeah,
They even often partner with white people.
These
They
Ivy
hang
League
out in white
schools,
places,
yeah.
and then they throw the community, the ones that are actually very Asian, the ones that live in Asian communities, that work with and deal with Asian businesses and all that. They call us the white adjacent ones, don't they?
Yeah.
Well, what the fuck? Explain that.
What do you mean? I'm trying to fight that my entire fucking life. Like even before communism.
Like, in the Asian American community, we kind of worship like CNN, New York Times, these mainstream media, and also these Harvard, these prestigious schools. And so isn't that kind of automatically because I don't think other communities are like that. I have Hispanic community friends. Of course, they want to go to prestigious schools, but it's not like hellbent.
Yeah.
Like Asian community, you know that, right?
Yeah.
So doesn't that automatically make other races view Asians being a little bit, because it is kind of white created, right? That world of prestigious world, like Ivy League.
Right, but where does that actually
media.
come from too? I mean, it comes from also like how the imperialism, but also like in Korea. How do you get into the top schools in Korea?
Well, you gotta have connections too, I think.
Right. So you got to have connections. You got to, work really hard in school, but you really have to get in. Like everybody wants to go to Sky,
Sure,
right?
sure.
In
Sky,
Korea,
yeah.
almost everyone, right?
Sky
Maybe there are
and-
some gangpes that don't
Yeah,
care. or
right. For
whatever.
those who don't know, Sky stands for the three top
Seoul,
universities:
Daegyo,
Seoul
and
University,
Yonsei
Korea
Daegyo,
University,
and
and
Daegyo.
Yonsei University.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seoul National University. I mean.
Yeah, I mean, like, so, my dad went to Seoul National University.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in a Korean church where there was plenty of his alums. A lot of us were going into top schools or whatever. Me going to Duke was an actual disappointment to my parents at the time, for example. So that's where it really comes from. It comes from just coming from the post-Korean War era. People were like, fuck, we are fucking poor. How do we not be poor anymore? We got to study our asses off to get into the best colleges.
So that only happens in the Asian community, right? Mainly. I don't think it's
Strongest in the Asian community.
Like in the black community, I did hear about like athletically, if you're not getting scholarship by playing excel in basketball, I heard that they get really stressed, like how we get stressed if we're not making grades. That's what I heard happened in the African American community.
Yeah.
Probably the Hispanic community, they're kind of more lenient about academia and stuff.
But it's ironic because I feel like black students, if they really just concentrate on their studies, they can get scholarships that way.
You mean without the
Without
affirmative
the
action?
athletics.
With
Yes.
affirmative
I
action.
mean,
without
but
one.
With affirmative action.
Okay, but I went to high school in the Palisades, which was featured in Modern Family, that high school. And it's supposed to be considered one of the best schools in LA County, right? Public schools or whatever, all the charter school. Anyway, even in that school, a lot of the students were bussed in from like Koreatown or South Central or wherever. And even at like our school, there were a lot of students who couldn't read. Like they could barely read, even in senior year. Like the teacher would be like, "Can you read the next line?" And then they were like struggling to read.
But those are not Korean students, right?
No, but
That's what I thought.
but the thing is like that's and our school was considered one of the best. So I'm thinking if that's how our school is, sandwiched between like Malibu and Santa Monica, then imagine in the actual like Compton or wherever, how horrible the schools must be there. So that even if you
horrendous.
study hard, I don't know, can you really make it out of that environment? Plus you got to deal with gangsters or whatever. Like that's a it's gonna be more difficult.
If you're talking about in your school, they were underperforming. That's on them.
I know. So I'm saying even in our school, it's like that. So
Right. So
can you imagine how horrible it is?
No, but even if you're saying that even in your school they're not succeeding, then what is throwing gajillion dollars into those inner city schools going to do?
Well,
it's a problem.
I think those
of
monies
culture,
are wasted.
in my
No,
opinion.
that's a good
what I
point,
think.
but I'm not saying they were there the whole time. Maybe they went all the way through middle school in their community, and then suddenly in high school they were sent to they started coming to our place. So their whole foundation was all fucked up from the start. Like they never learned properly from a young age. So they were basically like, from the time they started school, it was just kind of like, all right, you have no future. You have no education.
Okay, so what about all those Chinese Americans in New York City and Chinatowns in New York City or San Francisco that grow up super fucking poor, that don't have none of those same resources you're talking about?
That's a good point too.
That's a very powerful. That's a very powerful point.
That is a good point too. But then here's a counterpoint. How about a lot of them? Their fathers were killed or imprisoned for whatever.
Regarding possession of marijuana.
Okay, so was that all of them though? That's 25%, right? So what about the 75%?
25% of what?
I guess
25%
entire jail
I don't
population?
know.
Yeah, are you saying it's a significant percentage where that's the case, where it's like
No, I'm saying they can
even
do
if
it.
it's 50%, right? Even if it's 50% absentee
what I understand
voting,
is
what happened to that other 50%? What they can't.
No. You're right. I'm just trying to bring some balance to this. That it is harder for them, but
it's huge in the black community.
I mean,
what I understand it.
Like, yes, I understand. I understand slavery. I understand Jim Crow. I understand all these other sort of things that happened in the past 200, 300, 400 years to the black community. I just think that because of several things that happened, particularly during the civil rights movement and the ascendancy of this black liberal bourgeois class, I think they conditioned the black community to expect like favors from America rather than like being like, okay, yes, we have been disadvantaged before in the past, but now we just gotta have to work twice as hard to achieve that or get that.
That is true. And and that to me,
and I'm not saying that there are black people who understand this too. I'm not saying that there are no black people that take the challenge and overperform. I'm friends with some of them on Twitter. Like they know the task at hand. They know that you have to work harder to get to the same level as a white person whatever in this country. But
it's the white liberal, it seems, that perpetuates this. Like, oh, it's not your fault.
Exactly.
You guys got screwed over. You guys can't do shit. We got to help you. But the thing is, like, that's part of it too, because that fucks with them mentally. Like, we're expected to fail.
They're literally infantilizing the black community.
Right. So the white liberal is actually a great enemy to the black community.
That's what I think
too.
Yeah,
that's what Malcolm X said in 1964.
That's what their biggest enemy is.
In 1964, Malcolm X was basically saying the ballot of the bullet, basically saying, don't just vote for Johnson just because the Democrats are saying they're friends. Vote for whoever is. Use your vote like a bullet. Use your vote like we can change. The Democratic. We have the power to change the Democratic or Republican if we want to. So, what if like the Democrats aren't doing enough for us? Let's just change the Republicans just to create some sort of fear in the Democratic Party that if they don't serve our interests, we'll just go to another party. So that's what Malcolm X was saying. We could just, regardless of any political like parties like positions, just like punish them by voting a certain direction.
But it's not happening.
Right.
I think it's not happening. It hasn't been happening for decades.
That's why they killed him. They killed him in 65.
And I remember Malcolm X, I think it was the ballot or the bullet, right?
Yeah.
And Malcolm X said, the Democrats need the black people because, it's only a few percentage points that can determine the election.
Yeah.
And if black people all vote a certain way, then the black people have the power. So, and he was kind of telling the black people, the black community, like, hey, you put these Democrats first, they put you last. What does that make you? That makes you a chump, a political chump. Mm-hmm. So,
like he was also saying, like they have majorities in Congress, and JFK. What did he do for us? What did President Johnson do for us after he was like? What is he doing for us now? Like if he's not doing anything for us now when he has all this power in office, then what are we voting for him for?
But after Johnson, I think blacks completely went to the Democratic side. After Lyndon Johnson, that's when it happened. And I think the most disgusting part is the white liberals. They portray themselves as the one who would take care of them. Okay, we're on your side. That's the disgusting part.
Yeah.
When actuality, it's the exact opposite of it.
Okay, now that we've established that white liberals are the enemy of black people, does that mean white conservatives are the friends of black people?
No.
Are the conservatives just more open about who they are, or what is it?
Conservatives, I mean, like the meta is constantly changing, in my opinion, especially in recent times with the internet and information. I think the meta used to be that, you know, conservatives were especially against black people, especially in the South, especially since, you know, that was where Jim Crow laws were happening, like being just demolished and blah, blah, blah. But I think that there's like kind of been, after the Johnson stuff, the Republicans played another kind of card, putting up like people like Condoleezza Rice or Colin Powell,
I mean, the black
in like big positions of power, and like just kind of like re-engaging themselves with the black community that way. And then like
on the side way, right? Not directly.
Right. And then the Democrats came out with Obama, you know, as their trump card.
Hey, Obama is half white though.
Well,
that's what Pastor Manning used to say. Is like, you call him black, but he's still got a white mama.
Yeah,
Shirley Ann.
Yeah, a white mama from the CIA, but that's for another time.
Okay, I don't know about this stuff. Maybe you can do one conspiracy.
Okay.
For the viewers, Michael Wan here for Radio Korea, Radio Korea's Culture Shock channel.
Well, she was working for a I think she was working for like a Red Cross organization or something like that, nonprofit in Indonesia.
I mean, there's a lot of conspiracy theory regarding Barack Obama that he got helped by one big funder from I forgot his name. But
whoever the funder is, it's connected to CIA. I'm 100%
I
sure.
heard that angle.
Yeah.
So yeah,
because like his stepfather his stepfather was literally CIA.
Mm-hmm. You mean Barry Soetoro?
I forgot who it
Wasn't
was.
that Obama's name? Barry
Soetoro was his name for a while when his mom married an Indonesian.
They were in Indonesia.
Yeah, Indonesia, yeah.
You know, right after the Jakarta, genocide happened. So it's just kind of like
something fishy about it, right?
Do a one conspiracy. And on the screen here, you see Culture Shock, which is Radio Korea's Korean language program. Doug has appeared on this program a few times.
He did during season 1.
There is a thing called Wanspiracy, where, Michael Wan and conspiracy, Wanspiracy. So if you understand Korean, you might want to check this out. And if you want to see past shows with Doug, you can see them here. So let's see. Is white media to blame? Oh, we did this a year ago. That's funny. So
we're just going to do it. We're just going to do it every LA Riot, every year on this day. We're just going to do it until the Korean American community gets
it's sitting on our minds rent free, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
no, we paid the rent for this.
So isn't white liberal media is still controlling the majority? I mean, the entire body of the media right now. That's how I see it.
I mean,
it's
all
white
connected.
liberals.
Like, to you see parties. You see liberal. You see Democrats and Republicans.
Okay, to you,
I
see
just
race.
see one thing. No, I just see one.
Okay,
that's right.
Go ahead.
One establishment.
Oh, you mean uniparty, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you talk about the deep state doesn't care about parties.
Okay, so when we talk about deep state, I'm not saying that Republicans are not deep state. Okay, I think like people like Nikki Haley, and I think those are deep state adjacent.
To me, everyone's
beings.
Basically controlled by the deep state.
You're saying there are more anti-establishment types found on the conservative side.
That's what
right?
I think. That's what I think.
What about the communists? There's no. There's no
maybe a few, but
what do you think of David Kim and John Yi? These are Democrats, but they're openly like supporting Gaza and against Israel's genocide. Like, what about them? I mean, they're running here, but maybe that's the reality.
What is it?
They're not getting PAC money either, right?
Yeah, they're not, but they're running here, and they're,
what is their position on the DPRK?
They don't even talk about
I know that at least David Kim supports peace treaty.
And China?
Probably. I'm sure they don't want war there.
What about Iran?
Iran? Persia? Yeah. I'm sure they don't want that either. I know they don't. That's not.
But what do they say? Do they repeat some
when you say
stuff
Iran,
about women's rights in Iran and?
Well, they also got to win, right?
Exactly. So,
it doesn't even go to Iran.
They haven't won, right?
Yeah.
So that's
David will win though for sure.
So you can't really be a part of you can't really be a part of the deep state if you haven't won.
Do you think that?
But B.
Yeah, but are they going to be?
Even if they do win, like you said, they got to win. Meaning they have to repeat some establishment lines to get in. So they are effectively, even if they do win, they are part of the deep state.
So it seems like our democracy system is flawed.
Yeah.
I think it is a.
I mean, liberal democracy has been flawed. I mean, people have known liberal democracy has been flawed.
Greatly flawed.
Over 100 years.
No, greatly flawed. It just seems like you got the money, you
Yeah.
Like Vladimir Lenin
So I was
points
talking
out
about
all
that
this
during
stuff
conspiracy about
over
money.
100 years ago.
You know, people are
Yeah.
bought and paid for. These politicians
Yeah.
that we all look up to, that when they get out of their
We
office,
live-
they set up these foundations. And do you know who they hire? They hire their people, their relatives, their family members. They all
Yeah.
go there. So all that money, when they get the fund, their kids get that money.
Democracy has always been an oligarchy, where whoever has the most money rules.
You know, and that's the thing I want to talk about democracy is like, it seems for most Americans, democracy just means you get to vote, like vote, vote, vote. But what's the point of voting is you want to vote to change things in a way to make your life better. But if you vote and you have that democracy, but your life keeps getting worse, then what the fuck? Is that really democracy? Whereas you look at other countries where, like, for example, China, you can't vote there, but your life is materially getting better. You're living longer and all that. But isn't that more democratic?
It
then?
is. And also, there's actually been like protests in Shanghai and some other cities during the COVID where they protested the zero COVID policy. And then they changed it.
Yeah.
They changed stuff in the city, in Shanghai. So it just shows that Chinese people have more control over their government than American people do over theirs.
So it was like a lockdown, the complete lockdown
Right.
That they did.
So they actually did.
I was kind of surprised.
There's some people that protested, and then they made
So the
concessions
news
with
that
the
I've
people.
been consuming regarding China was, I think, was there World
Establishment
Cup,
media,
World
but
Cup,
sure.
World Cup happening during that time, right? And then people saw World Cup and the crowds being filled, you know, the stadium, and
Sure.
that kind of made people rise up. I don't know whether it's true or not. It's more of a Western
That's
angle.
just
could
like
be.
probably establishment
But
media.
but people did protest against it, and I don't think.
Yeah,
I
in
don't know, I mean,
2022, they changed. So the Shanghai government or whatever, they changed their policy regarding zero COVID. At the time.
and now FDA is considering COVID like a flu, right? That's what it is, pretty much, right?
Well, I don't know about the FDA.
Now, here's the crazy thing is, it took protest. I remember that. They were protesting in Shanghai against the lockdowns, and then the government changed. They said,
Yeah.
okay, fine, we hear you, we'll change it. Meanwhile, you look at now, the protests happening all across the country about Palestine. Most of the world is supporting Palestine.
I think so.
And yet,
Yeah,
and with all the protests going
They
on
have
here,
snipers on the roofs for
that's
students.
crazy.
It's like Kent State.
So
Kent State, 1970, where they killed
Yeah,
4 students in Ohio.
People bring up like, oh, China, Tiananmen Square. You can't talk about Tiananmen. Like, what the fuck
Yeah,
are you talking about?
you talk about Americans know all about Tiananmen Square. They don't know anything about 1985 Philadelphia, the MOVE bombing.
And actually
They don't
the-
know about Kent State 1970. They don't know about
They don't
Waco.
know about today, 2024.
I think they know
protests.
about that protester who was standing in front of the tank. But I heard that he didn't die, right?
Yeah.
Many people thought that he did
No.
die, but he didn't die. You know, when we talked about
He just
Asians
stopped
being
traffic for 5 minutes.
what's the word that you chose? White adjacent.
Not,
Asians being.
I didn't choose that.
I mean,
That's
that's
a
what
term.
the main- that's
That's a
what
term
many
that
people-
liberal media
So I
has
think
chosen for us.
it's completely that is completely not the case.
Yeah.
Because
And what
if
does
it
it say?
is, they control the
You know
system.
what it- you
And
know what it says?
LAPD
You know what it says?
LAPD protected Beverly Hills. I mean, it was in the documentary,
Yeah.
like Woodland Hills and all these rich and affluent white area, right? They didn't.
We don't get that protection.
But Koreatown
We're
didn't.
not
So
white
we
adjacent.
can't. So right off the bat, you know,
We're
we are
literally
not white adjacent.
not adjacent in that,
We're
like,
not.
geographically, we are not. But the other thing, too, is that white adjacent is actually anti-black. You know why? Because it's basically saying if you succeed, if you work hard and you succeed and you are actually doing better than white people, that means you're white. So it's basically discouraging anyone black from being like, oh, I need to work hard, I need to study hard, I need to do all these math things or whatever to get into the top colleges. But if I do that to the rest of my community, I'm white adjacent. So there's this kind of like...
So what you're talking about is Uncle Tom.
Yeah, they're basically making...
Situation, right?
Yeah, they're making it out that if you work hard in the white system and you succeed in the white system, you're an Uncle Tom.
Is that created by the white liberal media too? That one, white liberals.
That's kind of like
That
almost
Uncle
like
Tom
a joint project
term?
between white and black liberals, in my opinion.
Like people like
starting in the
Al Sharpton,
70s, 80s, yeah.
I
Just
think
like
that's
this
good.
idea that success is white adjacent.
Yeah, exactly.
That's that's
um,
to me is the actual anti-blackness, by saying like black people, if you actually succeed in our society, that means you're white adjacent.
But isn't it actually happening? You see a lot of successful black businessmen or entertainers. Like
I mean, you're only,
their neighbors are all white,
mostly
right?
you're
They
seeing
go to
them-
white area.
Yeah, mostly
They
you're
do.
seeing them
Like Eddie Murphy, he lives in a rich
NFL,
area.
like all the people you're talking about are entertainers, right?
True.
they don't praise. They praise all the entertainers, but they don't praise the black guy who goes to Google or Facebook or succeeds or whatever. They don't praise the black guy who's at a bank, like working his way up. They don't praise any of those people in even in black liberal media, right? And it's like, why is that? Why shouldn't you be promoting kind of like black people coming up in these different sort of professional arenas rather than, like focusing 80, 90, 89% of your attention on these celebrities? And Malcolm X calls this out too. He says to like the people, he says something about like how when people ask white people about their political views, they don't talk to the entertainers. They don't talk to the white actors or whatever.
What?
They talk to the journalists. They talk to the academics. They talk to the the people in the ivory towers.
That's
but when they
yeah.
talk to the black people about politics, who do they talk to? They talk to the
LeBron
basketball
James.
players. LeBron James, right? Like whatever.
Yeah. Michael Jordan played it smart. I think he said Republicans buy shoes too, right? So
he just didn't get involved in politics. He just wanted to.
True capitalist.
Yeah, he just wanted to make as much money as possible.
No, because I think Michael Jordan. I mean, to give him a fair shot, he said he didn't know that much about politics back then. He was just crazy about basketball. So
yeah, but
I don't really buy that. Because like apparently I was reading a biography about Jordan. And Patrick Ewing, he was the same kind of like age as Jordan.
I think they have
the next guy with the huge knee pads.
He considered going to UNC as well, but then he saw like a KKK rally just like next door, and he was like, "Nah, this is not for me."
In North Carolina?
Yeah, North Carolina's a huge KKK like area.
Still, you think?
Yeah,
I don't.
I went to Duke, all right?
Oh,
don't fucking like.
So you see it? You
don't fucking
saw
question
it too?
me.
You saw it too?
I didn't see it.
You see it. You saw these people
But
in there.
I knew what I was getting into when I fucking
pointing.
went to North Carolina. My history teacher at the time was like,
well, I don't know. Michael Jordan, was he born there? He was born in North Carolina, right?
Yes.
I don't know. I mean,
no, there's no way he didn't
Jordan
know anything about
he donated money
politics.
to one of the Democrats, but I don't know whether he cares that much about it. And I think LeBron James. So he is one of the ones who's buying into all this white liberal media. Wouldn't you agree? Whatever they're saying.
It's hard. It's hard to say because, like, I think
one of the echo chamber.
He doesn't really talk about politics at all, really either. I think like
he just criticized. Yeah, he just bashes certain individuals. Yeah,
sure, or whatever. It's just. I think any sort of attention on LeBron and politics is just overblown, in my opinion, especially on the Republican side. I think like for most people, he's just a basketball player.
Speaking of LeBron,
but I love
the Lakers did not get swept over the weekend.
Yeah, I know. They won,
against
right?
the champion Nuggets,
Denver Nuggets.
So
Jokic, right?
What's going to happen? I mean,
they're probably
I saw a statistic online. It said,
"Oh God,
teams that went 3, it's only
1
like
to 3.
149.
It used to be 0 to 3, right? But
149.
In the NBA,
it's 0 to 149. So if LeBron and his team can do it, it would be the first time out of 150 times that it was done. Can LeBron do it? And if he does, would he be the GOAT, the greatest of all time?
Just for winning this series, I don't think you can.
LeBron said it himself. He goes, "That's when I knew I was the greatest of all time."
It's possible.
Wasn't that 1 to 3 during the finals? Was it 0 to 3 right off the bat?
No, I think he was saying just winning for the Cavs after that made him the greatest. But what do you think?
I remember that. Yeah,
it's possible. Like I'm never to question the realm of, especially when it comes to LeBron. Obviously,
you're a huge fan of LeBron,
2016 3-1 comeback. That was a 0 and 50 or whatever. Stat in the NBA Finals, right?
That was.
From any team at 3-1.
So he made that happen.
And so he's the 1 and whatever it is. Right?
No, but what I'm saying is this is the first round, not the finals, Michael. It's the first round.
Yeah,
if you make that
but
happen,
any round in the NBA.
He's going up against the champions.
Well, so
I'd say it's
the first 2
possible
games it was pretty good, right? Pretty close, right?
Right.
The first 2, 3 games,
even
it was all
third
pretty
game,
close.
Even the third game, they were up by double digits. They were up by double digits every half.
But they collapsed in the second half,
sure.
especially the third quarter. So
is it possible? Yes, it's possible. Very unlikely.
Very unlikely. That's what I think.
I'm a gambling man, so I take statistics into account.
So if you have to put a number on it, how much was the percentage?
Say 5%.
Do you do sports betting?
I did here and there, but not like professionally or anything. It's just like
you got a bookie.
No,
okay.
I just like threw a couple $100 on like the Lakers in 2016.
What do you think about sports
I
being
mean, the Cavs.
What do you think about sports like NBA, NFL, MLB being used by the elites to distract the masses? Bread and circuses.
They say they use
it's the same
essence,
thing.
right?
It's the same thing with entertainment, Hollywood, which I'm very familiar with, obviously. It's the same with. I feel like journalism to this these days are basically pop journalism almost.
I think they're propagandists. Most of them.
Propagandists.
Can you tell me about your time in Hollywood?
Right now,
Oh, 5 minutes because we always talk about
the end of the show is always about Doug.
Oh God!
Come on.
I mean, I've been.
Wait, we can do another one.
I mean, I thought we were talking about just Doug and whatever.
So
and blah, blah, blah.
Now you're
no,
asking
I'm
me
not talking about that right now.
his
I'm not talking about that. There's not enough time to talk about that.
Yeah.
Okay, how about we do it and then it'll be a teaser into the next one where we get more into it.
It's just like, all right, here's an example, right? In 1986, this is 11 years after the Vietnam War.
Okay.
The Vietnam War is
1986.
the lowest rated conflict in American history. It made the U.S. Army military so unpopular.
Yes.
11 years later, a movie called Top Gun comes out, where Tom Cruise, they make him into a Navy pilot. So it's not the Air Force or whatever.
Okay.
So it's Navy. It's like new. It's like hip. And his father served in Vietnam, but he has no connection.
Who?
to
Tom
it.
Cruise?
Yeah, the character.
Oh yeah.
So his father isn't, served in Vietnam, but we don't talk about that. That was just the whatever. And there's the new top flight guys, and we're going against like unnamed enemies, but really the Russians. And
Since it was the 80s, right?
yeah,
86,
we're
right?
cool. We're blah blah blah. We're hip. What they noticed was this movie was so popular
I know. Yeah. There
that
was
the
an
Navy
increase,
people they
right?
put
Yeah.
recruiting boots in the movie theaters.
Yeah.
The recruiting numbers went up 500%.
That's what I heard. Yeah. That's,
And so from that point forward, the Department of Defense said to Hollywood, if you want to use any of our equipment,
You
we
can
have
use
final approval over your scripts.
And I think Tom Cruise, that was one of the main reasons why he didn't do a sequel right away, because he said, he didn't want to be one of the military
So this is kind of
guys known
like
to be
one of the
military guy.
things that I've learned over the years.
Yeah,
about
because Hollywood is powerful, man.
But Hollywood, like when you even think about Marvel, right? How does Marvel start? Iron Man.
It
Iron Man
started
is a
with,
defense contractor, right?
yeah.
Stark Industries. Who is he talking about? He's talking about these Muslim terrorists. He's actually killing Muslim terrorists in the movie, right? With his advanced weaponry. And his weapon is called the Jericho missile, right?
Jericho.
So this is literally Marvel Cinematic Universe is literally rooted in Israeli kind of like propaganda.
mentality.
And Captain America, is that part of Marvel?
Yes.
It is.
I mean, it's
yeah.
an older property, but it is also part of Marvel.
Can you imagine Captain China?
So, I mean,
No,
Fast.
actually, there is a Korean American character that came out in Marvel. That's
there
what I
is a
heard.
Captain Britain, I think, in
Ma
Great
Dong-seok.
Britain.
Ma Dong-seok, he was in
that it?
Eternals. You're right.
okay.
He was one of the members in
No,
Eternals.
and-
but I don't think he was a
Sedong?
Korean American character. What?
Ma Dong-seok. Don Lee.
I know.
Don Lee,
I'm
Don.
making
Okay.
I'm making a joke. Mao.
Bumjadoshi 4 just came out, by the
How
way.
was it?
I haven't seen it. I'm going
What?
to go see it.
What did he say?
I'll see it soon, yeah. Hey, by the way, about Top Gun, I heard that after the most recent one came out, that
2 years ago, yeah.
the
Maverick.
recruiting like skyrocketed
Oh, did
again.
it? Again?
Yeah.
How much do you know by numbers?
I don't know. It's just something I heard.
Yeah. I mean, when I saw the movie, I was like, I expected to hate it, but I
You
was
loved
like,
it?
God
Top Gun?
damn, this is fucking good.
You know why? You know
propaganda.
why I watched it is actually it was from Twitter. What's her name? Eliza Aesthetic Distance.
Oh, yeah.
The Filipino girl. She was like praising it, and she seemed to be a leftist, but if she's praising, I was like, okay, I'll watch it, and it was fun.
I watched it
You mean,
because
are
I
we
was
talking
in
about
Singapore.
the Maverick one, right?
Yeah, the new
most
one
recent
with
And
yeah, the new
I
one,
wanted
yeah.
to try this There was this huge movie theater, and I was like, "Oh, the
IMAX?
the visuals are going to be amazing."
Yeah.
So I got to watch it for the visuals. But then I was like, "Da-na-na-na-na-na."
They even use the same
is-
soundtrack.
Oh,
They
you were
even
doing
use
the music,
same
okay?
soundtrack in the intro.
Hey,
And
Although I'm kind of not a fan of Miles Teller. I'm just kind of
Miles Teller, you
Yeah.
mean the blonde hair guy? Oh, you mean yeah.
All right.
Whatever.
Hey,
Okay.
we got about a
Whiplash,
minute
right?
before we get on.
The second.
So, what are you gonna do today to celebrate Haigu 429?
I was just going to post
commemorate,
our
right?
thing on Twitter.
Okay. Oh, I know. Yeah,
Commemorate.
right. Okay,
Yeah.
we'll talk about that later. How are you going to celebrate?
Not celebrate,
or-
commemorate. Right?
Yeah.
Commemorating. I mean, I watched all that. Just watching the documentary itself was meaningful, you know, and
Thank you.
to remind ourselves. And I read a bunch of articles today related to Saigu about and legal documents regarding it. And you know, I think it's very multi-layered. But I think Korean Americans were the biggest victims out of all that. And I think we should be angry about it.
I think it's interesting because I think that was the awakening period for Korean Americans.
True. Yeah.
That we need to organize. If you don't have political representation, you will get genocided.
Exactly.
You will get killed. You will get whatever. They won't even care about what happens to you. And I think what the Chinese American community is experiencing today with that, you know, Gestapo 5, whatever, I think they're realizing the same thing. If we don't have political organization and protections, we're just going to get taken advantage
Do you
of.
agree with that point that some people said that the riot actually helped the community
Become
evolve,
stronger?
yeah, it becomes stronger and
A little
economically
bit,
faster in
but
a
also I
huge
think
way.
liberal infiltration ruined a lot of that.
Right. Okay. Well, we'll you know, it's 32 years. Although this episode's going to come out a couple days from now.
Yeah, but still.
But
This
yeah.
week.
Asians, let's unite. Koreans especially, let's unite and fight back against. You know, join us. Join the three of us.
Yeah.
Oh wait, we can't leave out Rocco.
Oh, yeah,
1540.
Rocco. He's our unsung hero, right?
Join the four of us in the fight against anti-Asian racism, and we're gonna smash the racists, right, Doug?
Anti-Asian Nazism.
Yeah, we're gonna get them.
Yeah.
So, thanks for coming, and we'll be right back next time.
Thank you.